So we are taking a break out of the stream to take a look at the talent system design philosophy post they posted, and we're also going to get to see the Blood Death Knight talent. So let's quickly get to it, man. There's a lot to look at. We're going to read this quickly as well. Some of the biggest goals in the class and talent revamps are to increase player agency out of your character's progression and build, provide meaningful rewards while leveling, and reinforce your character's connection to both their class and their spec. Sounds exactly like what I want. In addition, we felt we had to retain many features of modern World of Warcraft specializations. Specializations have many unique abilities, some of which might be central to the identity of your spec. They have a wide variety of optional bonuses that have been created at various times over the years. Visually, trees are still an intuitive way to represent the different paths one could follow while making many choices about a character. Trees also communicate dependencies and magnitude intuitively without a lot of added rules. That's a great point, actually. I really like that. For example, talents higher in the tree are expected to be more commonly chosen, while talents lower in the tree are more optional and more geared towards shaping max level builds. That's a good point. Dragonflight talent trees have some significant differences from previous versions of talent trees in World of Warcraft. First, you have not one tree, but two. This is due to the combined importance of class-wide and specialization-specific themes for current WoW characters. It's also important to recognize that, this didn't need to be the case in the past because specs and classes were not different. Now in WoW, pretty much since, WoD, they have been, a completely different system. There's a class, and then there's a spec. It's not like it used to be. So anyway, the class tree contains a core set of abilities available to all specs in a class that has a higher proportion of utility choices. It's a place you can, among other things, choose some abilities or passives that draw from the identity of the specialization to give your character some hybrid flavor. Another fundamental change is that much more of your class is represented in the tree instead of being awarded automatically while leveling up. Other than the starting abilities you obtain before accessing the system at level 10, the vast majority of abilities are obtained via the tree. It's very interesting. This gives rise to some of the most important questions and challenges of the new system. Exploring a world where many more things are optional has a lot of advantages, but requires a lot of care. Here are just some answers to questions and answers that we know. Some answers to questions and answers that you might be wondering about. Some abilities are critical to my rotation. Will that mean I always have to build a certain way? No, the most basic building blocks of your rotation will tend to be either learned from levels 1 to 10, awarded automatically in the class tree, or placed at the top of your spec tree at the first point in the tree. In other cases, major abilities that we expect to be a part of the most builds will be near the start of the tree. So it sounds like the top of the tree you're going to have multiple choices at, but then as you go longer down the tree, you won't have that. A certain piece of utility is important in certain contexts. Does this limit my choices? Similarly, the more likely something is to be all but required for some players, the more we must place it in the tree at an appropriate location. Okay. Does this mean it's possible to make very bad builds? In short, yes. There are limits and guardrails here, but such as these abilities that are automatically given. It's possible to make very bad builds. In short, yes. And furthermore, our goal is designed in trees to not trap players into complicated choices in order to make a functional build. In fact, it's the opposite. It's to set up the tree with intuitive paths that lead you to reasonable builds. But a key philosophy of this rework is to keep the player in the driver's seat of their character's growth within their class. Does this mean that some of my points are spent on somewhat obvious choices and are likely to be moved? Often, yes. 61 points is drastically more than the 7 that players currently have in Shadowlands, and it would probably be a mistake if all 61 points were always heavily in play. That is part of how we maintain the balance alluded to above, and it is not overwhelming to make and analyze builds. The tree contains a spectrum of more basic abilities all the way to comparatively advanced ones. And that's an interesting point, because what that means is they're going to say, they still want this to be a leveling feature, right? So they have to actually put a ton of talent points in. I think they kind of solved some of that with Cataclysm. In Cataclysm, they broke down the trees. I think there was only a third of the points you would have needed from Wrath. So it made it there was less filler, right? But, there's going to be some now of that because they're trying to make it from, it looks like from 10 to 70. So does this mean that I will use some of my points to rebuy things that were baseline in Shadowlands? And that was a question that Caliban actually asked the other day, and let's see what they say. For all the reasons mentioned above, making a huge swath of abilities open to player decision-making requires this. We hear this feedback as a primary concern about having much less stuff than you had in Shadowlands. After starting with your basic class and spending 61 points in a tree, will you feel pruned? Openly, our goal is that you don't. We'll be watching for feedback on that. Our goal is for a Dragonflight character to feel like it has a similar amount of power and complexity, which can be hard to quantify, as a Shadowlands character. The main difference is you getting to choose which active buttons and passive buttons bonuses make up your toolset, and potentially having combinations. And so, like, I think that's going to happen regardless. I don't, I hope they won't worry too much about this, because you're taking away borrowed power, quote unquote, and you're not adding new borrowed power. So yes, you will feel this way even without the talent tree. I don't think this is a concern, because it's going to go away very quickly, just like always. This happens every expansion since basically WoD. Anyway, one other set of questions is what abilities will still be rewarded automatically outside of the tree. Abilities learned before level 10. So yeah, and those are like the basic elements of the class. Yep. Moonfire and Deathstrike, good examples. Buttons whose impact is primarily not combat and not power related. And then non-stacking group buffs or spells, where a group virtually always wants exactly one person with the ability. So battle res. Mark of the Wild is on the list. Interesting. Okay, so that's cool. So what else we got here? There are a lot of case-by-cases to be made around, but by and large, we are pushing ourselves to leave it to players to explore in the tree how to build out their class from level 10 to 70. The experience of using the tree will be more intuitive when you play with the system in-game, but we want to provide some explanation here for those who want to analyze the current draft trees in detail. Please bear in mind, these are all subject to change as we continue development. Your first class tree point is awarded at level 10, and your first specialization point is at a level 11, alternating between the two from there. At level 70, you will have 31 available class points and 30 specialization points. Certain basic abilities in the class tree are automatically given to people of particular specializations. These do not cost any points. Now, that's so freaking cool, actually. I quite like that. Most talents have prerequisites, and they will be indicated by arrows in the final UI. If a talent has any arrow leading to it, you must have fully purchased at least one of those previous talents to access it. For clarity, arrows always point downward or diagonally downward in current drafts. Every tree has certain rows that you can't advance past until you have a certain number of talent points. Unlike in pre-Mists of Pandaria tree, this is not the case for every row. In the prototype Druid and Death Knight trees, you cannot buy talents in the 5th row and beyond until you've spent 8 points in the tree. And you cannot buy talents in the 8th row and beyond until you've spent 20 points in the tree. That's interesting. In octagonal choices, you may obtain one of the 2 choices at a time. Interesting. Okay, so we have the Druid here as well, guys. You can take a look at the Druid stuff as well. All we're going to focus on now is the Blood Death Knight one. I'm extremely excited about this. This is literally like probably the thing I've been the most excited about with Dragonflight week after week. Every time we wait, and I just want to give my first impression about this. Then we're going to actually be able to read. It's going to show every ability, so we're going to take a look at that, okay? Out of the gate, the big thing I see here is that we actually have a Frost, relatively Blood, and a Unholy portion of this tree. And this is really encouraging to me, because my big concern was that there was not going to be this whole hybridity we saw with Druid. And the thing about the example of Druid, it's like actually not a great one to show first, because they are already having that hybridity, right? Like if you play them right now, they have a bunch of spells that encourage you to use multiple forms. Even though you're not playing a balanced Druid, you can go into balanced Druid form and use Convoke and Heart of the Wild and do Starfall and stuff. So it's like they already have that. So it was a really bad example to lead with, but it's probably because they knew that it would be a neutral example. They wouldn't have to show anything crazy. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff but we could immediately comment on, but we do see right here Slappy Hands seemingly, and maybe some other stuff too. So we're going to take a look at this. I cannot wait, man. I've actually been, I'm literally in the middle of a live stream right now, stopping the live stream to look at this. So let's take a look here. All right, so all maximum level Death Knights will have access to these abilities. They earned leveling. They are earned through leveling and do not require you to spend talent points to have them. Death Coil, so we know what that is. Death Grip harnesses the energy that surrounds and binds all matter. Oh, okay. We know about that one. Rune Forging, of course, we have that. Dark Command, Taunt, Deathgate, we have that. On a Pale Horse, the mounted passive speed, that's going to be really good. Path of Frost, we want that. Death and Decay, and Rune Strike. Strikes the target for physical damage So that's actually a spell that you can still have access to if you are no spec Death Knight, but that's probably why it's stand that way. And then, so that's the base abilities. That's what you get from 1 to 10. And then now we have class talents. So yeah, this goes on for a while. So just giving you guys a bit of a warning. There's a lot to look at here. So, all right, so let's take a look at what we got here. We also have the image as well to refer to. So row 1, so we're in this row here. It looks like Chains of Ice. Looks pretty normal. Let's see what it says. Chains of Ice shackles the target. Granted by default when... Oh, okay. So if you have Chains of Ice, or if you're Frost, you automatically have Chains of Ice. Death Strike is actually a spell that you have to choose to take, which is interesting. And that's automatically if you're Blood. And then Raise Dead. Raise the Ghoul to fight by your side. Last 1 minute, presumably still going to work the same way, but it's automatically given if you have Unholy spec, so that's cool. Okay, so row 2 now, we have this row here. It looks pretty normal as well. Mind Freeze. Hopefully everybody's going to take Mind Freeze. Anti-Magic Shell surrounds you, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that reading these is important. And then Improved Death and Decay. So you already have Death and Decay from the from like the level 1 to 10 portion. And now this is a modification of it. Obliterate hits 1 additional enemy while you remain in Death and Decay. Oh, wow. So that's not currently the case, right? In Shadowlands, you have to actually be Night Fae for that to be true. Is that correct? And these other 2 things, I believe, are true, just baseline right now. So that's cool. So you're basically kind of getting Night Fae if you're Frost there. Okay. Now we'll look at row 3. So here's where we have a lot more decisions, and it does look like something very interesting here. Don't know what these those things are, but we'll see. Icebound Fortitude. So yeah, you just don't even have that unless you take it. That's going to be a big issue. Blood Scent increases leech by 3%. Is that what this is? I don't actually know what the plus sign is. Veteran of the Third War. That's the passive. We've always had stamina increased by 10 to 20%. It's a 2 rank talent. So that's obviously going to be a really nice thing to have as Blood DK. Yeah, so I guess then the other plus sign is Suppression. Increases avoidance by 3%. That's very interesting. And then that leads on to the next row as well. Very interesting. And then Brittle. Oh, what is this? Your diseases have a chance to weaken your enemy, causing your attacks against them to deal 6% increased damage for 5 seconds. Wow. That's an entirely new passive. I don't think that ever existed before. Maybe back in the old days or something. And so that kind of looks like Super Strain, but it's called Brittle. John Brittle. Anyway, that's interesting. All right, so yeah, we'll come back to all this, but let's keep reading. So now we have row 4, which gets even more advanced because now we have 6 options on this row, and 2 of them are branching out from the leech thing that we were looking at. And Permafrost is actually going to be an option for Blood DK. Holy shit. Blinding Sleet is one of them as well. That's going to be really nice to have as Blood DK if you could take that. Permafrost, though, this might honestly be the most overpowered thing in the whole talent tree. Well, it's probably going to have to change from 40% because that's pretty ridiculous. That's a really, really, really good talent for Frost DK, guys, if you've ever seen it. It's based on the damage dealt. So, of course, Blood DK does a lot of damage with auto attacks. So that can be insanely valuable, just having that passive shield. We also have, it's either that or Death Pact, which is a good talent to take as a Blood DK too, I believe. I used to use that all the time back in, I don't remember what expansion, I guess WoD as well. And then it looks like Wraithwalk is on that in the middle somewhere. Oh, okay, Wraithwalk's over here. So this is like a really kind of imbalanced row so far, I feel like. And then either Wraithwalk or Sacrificial Pact, which is, yeah, it's good. I don't really feel like I need that, to be honest. I'd probably take Permafrost if I could. But then there's a new option here, Unholy Ground, to gain 5% while you remain within your Death and Decay, 5% haste. So that's this over here. And that looks like you just, as long as you come through this portion of the talent tree, you get this one no matter what, it looks like. So very interesting. So far the Unholy side does not interest me as much as the Frost side. If you guys have been following this discussion, I've been saying about how cool it would be to Frost Blood kind of hybrid, and I'm still leaning towards that. Okay, I'm at 5. Row 5 now is this row here, which 2 generic things. Let's see what they are. Merciless Strike, increased critical strike, and also Might of Thessarian, increases strength. Okay, so that's an interesting option. Pretty passive there. And then there's Anti-Magic Zone. So that is actually a talent that of course you have to choose to take. It's very interesting because I don't actually know how many points we have here, like how many points we would have had to have spent so far, but that'll be something to look at too. Okay, so now we're on to row 6, and that is going to be this row. There's a lot of options on this row. Row 6, proliferating chill. Chains of ice affects 1 additional nearby enemy. Okay, interesting. There's also a choice node. Runic empowerment. Each runic power you spend has a 2% chance to instantly grant you a rune. And each runic power you spent has a 1.6 chance to increase your runic regeneration rate. Now, is that good for a tank? I don't really think so, to be honest, but rune regeneration rate is always good, so you never know. The thing is, like, once the deeper we get here, how realistic is it that we actually go this far? Because I assume there's going to be some things down here that we really need, like, looks like Will and Acropolis, so... Okay, asphyxiate, anticipation. Successfully interrupting an enemy with Mind Freeze grants 10 runic power and reduces its cooldown by 3 seconds. Ooh, that's interesting. That's over here. Okay. Death's Advance. Ooh, wow, you actually have to take Death's Advance. Yeah, we're going to lose a lot with this talent tree, it feels like. But Death's Advance is dead center of the blood tree, so that's useful. And you cannot be knocked back or slowed, right? I assume. Yeah, you cannot be slowed. Yeah, so that's a really optional talent there, but still can be very, very valuable. Anti-magic barrier. Reduces the cooldown of anti-magic shell by 20 seconds and increases its duration and amount by 40%. So that's already a talent as well. It looks like as well as asphyxiate. I missed that one, but asphyxiate being a talent. Obviously, almost everything's a talent, so it's going to be hard to get used to. Control Undead dominates the target, forcing you to do its bidding. So that's actually quite interesting because you don't really need Control Undead in most dungeons. So yeah, depending on how far you can get down these talent trees. And then there's a choice node. Death's Reach, increase the range of Death Grip by 10 yards, and that's a current talent as well. And then Grip of the Dead, Death and Decay reduces the movement speed. Okay, so those are pretty, they don't immediately interest me. But this actually, it could be very good for blood at times. Could be very, very, very good for blood. Enfeeble. Okay, so here's another new Unholy. I mean, I don't think these exist currently, right? Enfeeble. Your ghoul's attacks have a chance to apply Enfeeble, reducing the target's movement speed by 30% and the damage they deal to you by 15%. Wow, that's pretty big. That's a lot of damage reduction there. But it's probably not going to happen too often. Okay, so now we're down to this row, and this seems to be getting closer to the end here. Okay, so Icebound Fortitude reduction is cooldown reduction 60%. Or okay, I read that all wrong. Icebound Fortitude's cooldown is reduced by 60%. So did they say what it actually starts at now? It doesn't say. So who knows if that's going to be really important or not. Assimilation. The amount absorbed by Add to Magic Zone is increased by 10% and grants up to 100 runic power based on the amount absorbed. Okay, so that could be really good. And that's the one in the blood tree. And then Lichborn. Okay. It's not what it used to be though. Unfortunately, without the conduit, it's just going to be leech and making you immune to stuff. So we'll see. I don't really need that, I feel like. Okay, row 8, Icy Talons. Your runic power spending abilities increase your melee attack speed, stacking up to 3 times. And this is like, so here we're to a point now where it's exactly what I wanted. Like, you're basically able to play like a Frost DK as a Blood DK, right? Like, you can take almost all of the core Frost passives, it seems like, at this point. You're basically taking actual Frost talents at this point. And that's really, really, really cool. So I don't know how good that kind of thing is going to be, but it does seem like if I can take these things as like an offensive tank build, we'll get a lot of value out of that. We also have Horn of Winter, generating 2 runes and generating 25 runic power. So I think that's just the talent that they have right now. That's here in the middle. It looks like it's actually crossing over, which is kind of cool. Improved Death Strike. Death Strike's cost is reduced by 10, and its healing is increased by blah, blah, blah for blood specialization. And that's kind of just somewhat similar to Voracious, I guess, right? So that's kind of just the Voracious talent right there. And Will of the Necropolis is also here. That's another one that is crossing over in between the two. Obviously, we want that. Will of the Necropolis, damage taken below 30% health is reduced by 30%. That's exactly what it is right now as well. And then there's the Unholy Bond. Increases the effectiveness of your Rune Forge ability by 10 to 30%. Wow. Interesting. Man, Unholy's getting like all new stuff. What the hell's that about? They're literally getting all new stuff. Very interesting. Okay, row 9 now. We're into the second to last row, and I'm really interested in seeing because I don't recognize any of these. Well, this I think I recognize. Runic Attenuation. Auto attacks have a chance to grant 5 runic power. Rune Mastery. The thing about this is, though, it's like, yo, they used runic power differently than Frost does, right? Like, all of these things for Frost DK, they're like, you kind of flood with Frost DK runic power. It doesn't really matter that much. You know what I mean? Because they have a couple spells that use it, but it's like, it's not like it is on Blood and even on Holy. So being able to actually get these, it's kind of wild. Like, this is something else, man. This is something else. I'm really interested to see what tanking with the Frost talent setup looks like. Anyway, Rune Mastery. Consuming a rune has a chance to increase your strength by 6% for 6 seconds. So that's actually not that different from the set bonus, I guess, currently. But, of course, it's not going to stack, probably. Anyway, Blood Draw. When you fall below 70% or 30% health, you drain health from nearby enemies. Can only occur once every 3 minutes. So that's this here, I guess. So that's an entirely new spell. Very interesting. Blood Draw. Okay. That's obviously going to happen quite a lot. I wonder how long it actually works. Like, do you have to stay below 30? I don't know. Okay, Death's Echo. So this is the PvP talent here. I thought I recognized that. Death's Advance, Death Decay, and Death Grip have 1 additional charge. Well, Death's Advance is a talent, so that's going to be a little weird, but okay. That's the PvP talent right now, and that's getting added to the actual talent tree. And then the final row for the Death Knight element. We still have the blood to look at as well. 3 spells that I recognize. Empower Rune Weapon. Empower your rune weapon, gaining 15% haste and generating 1 rune and 5 runic power instantly and every 5 seconds for 20 seconds. If Empower Rune Weapon is not talented anywhere in the tree... Wait, what? This grants 1 charge of Empower Rune Weapon. What? If Empower Rune Weapon is not talented anywhere on the tree. What are you talking about? Does that mean, like, Frost gets that one for free or something? I don't know what that means. Okay, anyway, Abomination Limb. Now, that's actually the one that's in the blood tree, so that's quite interesting. Sprout an additional limb, dealing shadow damage over 12 seconds to all nearby enemies. Deals reduced damage beyond 5 targets. Every 1 second, an enemy is pulled to your location if they are further than 8 yards. And that is gain runic corruption instantly and again every 6 seconds. So very interesting. Okay. And then there's also Soul Reaper, which is just the same spell that we have right now. After 5 seconds, if the target is below 35% health, this effect will explode, dealing additional Shadow Frost damage to the target. Okay, so very interesting. I am extremely interested in seeing what this looks like for actual tanking, like literally just going down deep into the road. And how many points did they say we were going to get? It was 31, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so yeah, you get a lot of points. So you could actually fill out, looks like you can potentially fill out 2 out of 3 of these. So yeah, dude, I could easily see myself going deep Frost and then deep enough to get, you know, the rest of the passives. But God, this is just so exciting, dude. I'm so excited about this. I cannot believe how exciting this is. It's such a good idea, and it's gonna work out so well from what they've said at least already. Okay, so let's see. That was just the DK specific ones, guys. So let's look at the blood DK one now, okay? So we have row 1, and obviously you're gonna take. There's not a lot of options on row 1 here, guys. So yeah. All right. Anyway, Hard Strike instantly attacks the target and 1 other enemy. That's gonna be a good one to take, I think. Blood row 2. So now this is gonna get a little weird. Somebody pointed this out while I was streaming. But it does look like, yeah, you have to choose between one of the 2, but you have 31 points or something like that, so obviously you're going to take both of them. But yeah, you either take Marrow Rend or Blood Boil in this row. But yeah, like I said, you'll probably be taking both of those because they're very basic spells that you really do need. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't think you could actually... Can you actually tank without Marrow Rend? How would you have How would you survive without Bone Shield? Anyway, Blood Row 3. Let's see, this one looks like Fall Bulwark and a couple other stuff. Fall Bulwark, each charge of Bone Shield increases your maximum health. That is Fall Bulwark. And Crimson Scourge, so just like the talent right now. Same deal there. Probably taking both of those. Improved Blood Boils also on the right side. Increases the maximum number of Blood Boil charges by 1. Okay. So maybe like, do you have to take this? It looks like you do. You pretty much have to take these to continue down. So let's just keep looking. Blood Row 4 now. So we're down here. We got some really weird looking mask thing that we don't have in the game currently. Improved Bone Shield. Bone Shield increases your haste. Okay, so that's pretty important. Improved Heart Strike. Heart Strike's damage is increased. Okay. Blood Fortification. So that's the new thing. Stamina is increased by 10 to 20 to 30%. Oh, and damage reduction up to 10%. Wow, that seems pretty mandatory there. 3 rank talent. Interesting. And then there's Rune Tap, which is now again a talent. So, yeah, that's a good row there. All of that so far seems pretty important. It's going to be tough choices, man. I'll tell you what. Okay, so Blood Row 5 now. Looks like, oh yeah, Vamp Blood obviously going to be in the dead center of the tree. Let's see what we got. Blood Tap consumes the essence around you for 1 rune. A recharge time. Okay, so that's exactly like it is. Reinforced Bones. Increased armor gained from Bone Shield by 10%. I'm trying to take all these passive things, by the way. Like, God, that sounds great. Leeching Strike. Wait, what is that? That's this here. Okay. Leeching Strike. Hard Strike heals you for 0.5% of each enemy hit while affected by Blood Plague. So I believe that was a Legion artifact option. So that's coming back as a talent. Vampiric Blood. Embrace your health on death, increasing your maximum health by 30%. So that's just Vamp Blood. Hasty Bargain. When Crimson Scourge activates, you gain 3 to 6% haste. Interesting. That was the Battle for Azeroth trait, wasn't it? Very similar sounding, at least. Okay, and Death's Caress. Reach out with necrotic tendrils. Applying Blood Plague to your target and generating 2 Bone Shield charges. Wow. So they're buffing the hell out of that spell because they have to, because it's useless right now. Interesting, 6-second cooldown though. So it's gonna, so it doesn't use a rune anymore? Very interesting. That's a whole new spell then all of a sudden. Okay. Alright, now we have these really, 3 out of the 4 of them are big choices. I'm sure that's going to change at some point. Choice Node, a Blood Drinker. Drains health from the target over 3 seconds. And Consumption. Strikes all enemies in front of you. Oh, that was... I really hope that ends up not sucking. But the fact that they're actually putting those 2 things together is so smart. Because that is a much, much better... Those 2 spells are way closer to each other than the way it's laid out right now in the talent tree. And then in the middle we have Mark of Blood, which is still the same spell it looks like. And we have Tombstone, which was a great film. Consumes up to 5 Bone Shield charges. Probably won't be using that one. Probably won't be using either of those, to be honest. But it looks like we might have to. I don't know. Like, can you go this way and then back up? I wonder how that works. Okay, and then another one. We have Voracious. Death Strike's healing is increased by 20% and grants you 15% leech. Okay, so I was wrong about Voracious being changed to that other spell. And then we have either that or Bloodworms, which is pretty much the choice you have now as well. Oh yeah, and Death Pact is on that row too. So this is just way better, dude. There's so many like actual good like 2-part things that are way closer now in this version than they are in the current talent tree. Like look at this talent tree, right? Voracious, Death Pact, and Bloodworms, dude. 2 of the 3, very like they're both like great, and then Death Pact. It's like, what? That's so, no, dude. That's like, I don't know, man. So it's so much better that you only have 2 choices instead of 3. I like that a lot. And then we also have Relish in Blood. When Crimson Scourge is active, your next Death and Decay heals you for a small amount of health per Bone Shield, and you immediately gain 10 runic power. Is that not what we just looked at before? Crimson Scourge. Oh, I see. I just like completely overlooked that. So that's the passive that we currently have up there. Very interesting. All right. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. So that was that. Now row 7 we have right, or is it this one? Yeah, this is row 7 here. Ossuary. While you have at least 5 Bone Shield charges, the cost of Death Strike is reduced by 5 runic power. Okay. Improved Vampiric Blood. Increases all healing and absorb And durations by 2 to 4 seconds. Okay, so that's a 2-rank talent for improved Vamp Blood. Hemostasis. Each enemy hit by a blood boil increases the damage and healing done by your next death strike. That's a tough one not to take. Where is that? Right here. It's in the voracious row there, which is really good. This is gonna be hard to choose, man. I'll tell you what. And then Heartbreaker. Heartstrike generates extra runic power. That's funny because that is really deep into this talent tree. That's crazy. It's actually funny how deep that is. Okay, Blood Row 8 now. We're getting into the heavy stuff now. We have something that looks very interesting there. Let's see what it is. Rapid Decomposition. Ah, that's it. Okay, your Blood Plague and Death and Decay deal more damage more often. And Blood Plague leeches 50% of your health, or more health. Dancing Rune Weapon. Oh, that's a good spell. I might take that one. Summons. How is that on the same row as these things? Wow. Anyway, summons a rune weapon for 8 seconds that mirrors your melee attacks and bolsters your defense. Yep. That one's a good one. Anyway, Gorfine's Grasp is also a talent, of course, and Shadowy Tendrils coil around all enemies. Man, these are going to be hard to... God, there's going to be a lot of tough decisions. We still have a lot more choices to make here. We have 2 more rows. These look pretty interesting as well. Shattering Bone. When Bone Shield is consumed, it shatters, dealing damage to enemies. Oh, wow. This damage is tripled to enemies affected by Death and Decay. That sounds really good for Mythic Plus. What the hell? Holy shit, that sounds insanely good for Mythic Plus. Okay. Heartrend. Heartstrike has a chance to reduce the runic power cost of your next Death Strike by 10 and deal an additional damage based on your missing health. Okay, that's interesting. Crimson Rune Weapon. There we go. Dancing Rune Weapon generates 5 Bone Shield charges, and whenever a charge of Bone Shield is consumed, the cooldown is reduced. So that's really right out of Shadowlands. That's this here, yeah. Okay, so very good. Definitely going to take that, I think. Tightening Grasp. That's just right out of the talent tree currently as well. Additionally, reduce the cooldown of Gorfine's Grasp. And you're just not going to need this anymore, because now you have Slappy Hands, right? So, I don't know. It's very interesting. Red Thirst, okay, and that is right over here. And that is a 2-point talent now. The cooldown on Vamp Blood by 1 to 2 seconds per 10 runic power spent. How does that compare? Oh, it's actually stronger. It's 1.5 right now. And so that is 1 or 2. So that can actually be stronger than the current Red Thirst, which is really, really powerful. God, that's so cool. All right, and let's see the final one, because we do have a talent. Actually, we have 2 talents that I have no idea what they would be. So let's take a look. We have a Bone Storm, a Whirl of Bone, and that's exactly, looks like right out of the game right now. So that's obviously going to be interesting. I like that Bone Storm is one of the final options. You'll finally actually be able to choose Bone Storm and Red Thirst at the same time, which is going to be really, really nice, presumably. Oh, maybe. I'm not sure about that quite yet, but Everlasting Bond. Summons 1 additional copy of Dancing Rune Weapon. Additionally, each rune spent increases its duration by 0.5%, or 0.5 seconds. Oh, wow. And that's actually a better version, isn't that? Because this has been nerfed now, right? Oh, no, yeah, this is the nerfed version. Yeah, it just doesn't increase the strength. So, very, 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 very interesting. Wow, this is going to be an interesting spec, man. And then there's Purgatory still. That's a super boring one compared to the other 2 so far. And then we have another new one, Unquenchable Thirst. While Vampiric Blood is active, store a portion of your Death Strike healing. When Vampiric Blood expires, splatter nearby enemies, dealing 100% of the stored healing as shadow damage. Okay, I was hoping it was Umbilicus. It's close. It's not that far. It's not that far. I was really hoping Umbilicus was going to be the talent. But it's not. It's good. I mean, that's good. When Vampiric Blood is active, store a portion of your Death Strike healing. How much? But yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, that plus Red Thirst, is that... Yeah, that's on the same row as Red Thirst. So that's going to be freaking insane, dude. I cannot wait. This is awesome. I mean, this is awesome. Like, it's so cool, dude. It's so freaking unique. There's so many... Dude, because, like, I'm telling you, man, Death Knight never got what they should have got, right? Like, their original iteration was good, obviously, but they were like so unsure of what they wanted Death Knight to be in Wrath that by the time they would have perfected the talent trees, Death Knights lost theirs. You know what I mean? So they're the ones who always were losing the most when they got rid of the talent trees, and they are now the ones that are winning. They are clearly the successor to. I mean, this is so cool, man. This is like actually gonna be. You could literally be like a Frost Blood Decay, man. I'm so excited about this. I can't express it enough. I really can't. So let's just go ahead and move on. So thank you for watching, guys. I am extremely excited, and I hope that, yeah, you never know, man. There might be a lot more to talk about, but God, this just looks so freaking cool. So if you guys want to see more of this stuff, let me know. I'll give my opinions on all of these other options as well, maybe someday. But thank you for watching. I am really excited about what this is going to look like in the future.